Today is January 17th.
Can I hit this to clarify when we're ready to go?
Just click record.
Okay.
Right now. There we go. All right, today is January 17th, 2024. It is 7:10 p.m. We are at planning and zoning. The first order of business, I didn't do an agenda, which I think maybe I should have, but.
No.
Okay, so first order of business, I would like to make a motion to reappoint Brady Oxender to be the chair of planning and zoning.
I second the motion.
You get 4.
Is it? He is, okay. Do we do it roll call?
No, yeah, you can do it.
Okay, we'll do roll call.
Are you?
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
We'll do it this way. All
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Mr. Brady, you are officially the chair.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate your faith in me to carry forth and do what we do. So we had, generally, we agree to look at our rules annually. I did take a look at them, and I think that they worked well last year, and I anticipate them working well again. So I will send those out in the next day or so, and at the next meeting, we'll just have see if anybody's got any amendments between now and then. But then we'll just go ahead and approve, hopefully, our rules at the next meeting, and those rules, largely procedural. They do have how we treat zoning variance meetings. And then at the start of last year, we did make a change to the position of secretary to just say that it's a non-voting member that serves at the call of the chair. So if I don't feel like keeping the minutes, then I can ask somebody else to do so. That works. I think everyone, Tommy will agree that worked well last year. So hopefully we'll find somebody who gets excited about keeping minutes going forward. If not,
Oh, you could add that to your questionnaire.
yeah. How do you feel about being secretary?
Do we have anybody that's going to do minutes for this particular
I will
meeting
do
right now?
minutes.
Okay.
So with that, the next thing is just when are we planning to meet? And I would first say, is there, I guess we're almost all the voting members, is there anyone who has strong feelings about not meeting on Wednesdays, about moving into a different day? I'm fine with Wednesdays. They seem to work for me. Tommy, I know you have the most probably evening village, well, Mayor, you've got the most evening village commitments, but I think Wednesdays have worked, Wednesdays can work unless anybody has any thoughts otherwise.
No, probably given our calendar for council, probably has to stay on Wednesdays.
Okay.
Unless you want to make Fridays, no one likes that.
Nope, no interest in that.
Saturdays at 7 a.m.? No.
No.
I would do it, I'm up. I would take a break from the kids, but. So with that, I mean, the plan for this year is to continue what we started last year, I think, which is coming up with a comprehensive green space plan. We have our kind of ranked list of things, and at the end of last year, we tried to clear the table a little bit, knowing that we were going to have a variance hearing coming up. And I don't know, Eric, if you want to speak to that, if that's
Sure.
scheduled in the works.
It is scheduled. It will be a Wednesday. So for February, you're going to, unless you want more than one meeting, you are scheduled for one meeting on the 14th, Wednesday. That's to bring a lot of people together. The village attorney will also be attending that meeting.
On Valentine's Day.
It is Valentine's Day, so hopefully that doesn't make anyone too sad or upset, but that's a calendar date that works for all the peoples. So it also stays within our 30-day lead under the conditional use permit, which was officially became valid on the new code date, which was the 15th. So we have to have the meeting in that time frame. We have 2 council members that are rotating in and out. Everybody will be back by the Thursday meeting on the 8th, which is important for a number of things. This body, the voting members, along with the council members, will also be getting attorney-client privilege minimum at some point to review, which was pertinent, and the attorney needs a little bit of time as well, so to prepare business meeting in February. So it will be the 14th.
Okay.
And then if you really want to have a second meeting, you can have it on the 21st too, but I'm figuring one is good for February. Being a short month.
I will not be here.
On the 14th?
Correct.
You're killing me.
Sorry.
Are you going to Niagara Falls? What are you doing?
Kentucky.
That's the wrong direction.
I got a work event.
All right.
Is there,
Real work. I mean,
what day, when do you leave?
the 14th. 14th through 17th.
So then
we
the
might be
follow-up
able to-
question is, does anybody have a problem for that particular meeting? And I'm not staring at the calendar for the day before,
I am.
Tuesday.
The backup date, which was still good, was the 13th. So, it sounds like to have our members here, we're going to have it on the 13th.
Would you be able to, I don't know what your timing is on that.
It's my wife's birthday, but I'll find a way to make it up to her.
What will
okay.
what will take place that day? What will take,
Well, that's gonna be-
can you give an idea
Sure.
of, like, will there be other people presenting? Who
Right.
will be present, like,
It's
how
gonna
does that go?
So in this particular case, for this conditional use phantom, will have their opportunity to present. Staff will have the opportunity to present. You know, if the board feels that everything has been presented to their liking, there's no other requests for information, or it's thorough. In that particular case, the board can conduct its business and vote at that moment in time, up or down on the request by the applicant.
Okay, our rules for variance hearings.
It's not a variance. This is a conditional use. It's new code. So it took effect on the 15th, and it applies in this particular case. They're applying for their conditional use permit.
Okay.
So which we will send around for everyone to review as part of the package as well.
Okay. Okay, then we would need to decide, since we don't have internal rules on how we handle a conditional use application, it would be up to us to decide how we want to do that. When we have variances per our group's rules, we allow the public to speak. And so the question is, for conditional use, do we want to allow the public to speak?
Is planning and zoning gonna have the ability to ask any of the questions that they wanna ask as well?
They will definitively be asking questions as part of the presentation.
Yeah.
Quickly, there'll be a Q&A with the applicant and staff if they so desire. So there will be obviously there'll be if I recall, I'm trying to pull up the new codes, it's not fresh in my memory. I believe there's a hearing at council at some point in time as well, so council will be able to give time for people to speak. You know, it is up to this body whether or not, how they want to allow that.
So once it gets through planning and zoning, it goes to council?
That is correct.
Yes. And we have, from what I remember, we are to submit our recommendation to council.
Correct.
But our criteria for approval is different from council's criteria for recommendation. When you look at our procedures for variance meetings, it's chair introduces the item, staff makes a presentation, commission asks questions about the staff, then the chair opens a public hearing, the applicant makes a presentation, then chair recognizes members of the public to speak. If no member of the public step forward for comment, or after all public comments have been heard, the chair may close the public hearing. Once the public comment period is closed, the only persons that should be able to speak are those on the commission. Commission may also ask specific questions of the applicant if necessary following the public comment period. Dialogue between the commission, the public, and the applicant should be primarily for fact-gathering purposes, and commission decisions should be made in the public's best interest as well as in accordance with the village code and applicable state laws. And so we'll have to get what village code now says is our criteria for approval of conditional use.
We actually have.
But that's for variance meetings, and Eric's saying that this is a conditional use.
Right.
So it's neither a regular meeting, which we have procedure for, nor a variance meeting, which we have procedure for.
So, a couple criteria introduced with the new code. So, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall review the application and provide at least 10 days written notice before holding a public hearing, which will be plenty of time to give our 10-day notice. shall hold a public hearing within 35 days of receiving the application and provide, I think it was 35, provide a recommendation to council to approve the conditional use, request approval, modification, disapprove the conditional use, same as the variance. Such recommendation shall be provided within 10 days of the hearing, so that, you know, after obviously you make a vote, it goes back up to council, it's within 10 days. Given that we have 35 days, we are not.
It's not gonna help.
It doesn't help?
No, it's not gonna help, because I'm looking.
Okay, so, it's gotta be.
Well, it wouldn't, I mean, honestly, well, it would, I guess. I don't think we have a council, no, because you're gonna be gone. When do you come back?
17th.
Yeah, and then that goes into the weekend. Nobody's gonna wanna come in here on Sunday, the 18th.
Well.
I'm gone the 18th, I fly out that day.
1, 2, 3, well, it could be Monday the 19th.
I won't be here.
No, I'm just saying that's the outside date now. Give
So-
them 5 days.
So who can make the 13th work? February 13th?
I can.
And the only thing that we have missing is Terry, so that's gonna be because he's non-voting.
He's not voting, that's right.
Yeah,
So,
so we would still need to find out if she's able to make it. And then if Terry is not able to make it, we would have one too.
if it's bad for everyone's dates, then we can ask the applicant if they're okay with us picking a different date, but we can work with them on that date. If it really doesn't work with people. They can always say no, and that puts us under the gun too, so.
I would
I would
assume
say-
they're gonna be under the gun as well.
Right. So if we can make the 13th work, it would be our best interest, I think.
So we'll need to get a message to Terry and just, don't know if anybody has her.
And I think the other question is, and everybody knows I don't wanna do this, but I mean, is a third choice, would the 12th work?
I cannot do the 12th.
Okay.
That's
The answer's no.
Monday, I can't do Monday.
Okay. I don't want to do the 12th. That's my one day.
But there's also council meeting. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of something, I'll just say 8th.
Yeah, no, I'll be here.
Thinking of another municipality.
So let's
Tentatively the 13th.
plan on the 13th.
Would we still do 7? Does anybody,
So it's good.
I mean, that seems logical, or else it's gonna confuse people. Okay, so back to your original question about, Comments?
We have 3 choices at this point. We can treat this as a regular meeting. We can treat it as a variance hearing as far as procedurally, or we could do something else. If we treat it as, I mean, under those 2 options, the public gets a chance to speak.
I have 0 issues with the public being able to speak, I think, personally.
Right.
That being said,
There's nothing in our rules limiting the length of time.
so I think that would have to be done.
Yeah, I mean, to give, you know, a normal meeting gives everybody 2 minutes. And then, you know, you're allowed to ask.
And that's, but that being said, and this is not me, if we are trying to be as, if we are voting on it based on conditional uses, or based on our ordinances and laws,
Well,
it seems to me it would be, it's one way or the other, I don't have the answer because I haven't heard it, it's gonna be straightforward.
well.
So I don't wanna say that their
except-
opinions don't matter, I
Right,
don't wanna imply that.
Except we'll have Eric read our criteria, and there is one, I mean, our criteria is more subjective than council's. And I don't know if you've got it pulled up, I think it's the 4th bullet on the criteria that we're supposed to review. And I would argue that, you know, the public's weigh-in could, you know, could matter there. Like, you know, I think if yeah, Eric, if you're, and I know everything's hard to find on the rewrite,
No, I haven't.
until it's all,
And this is a clerical type thing. Is it necessary for us to pass the rules of council to make this variance hearing the same as, or we can do what we wanna do?
No, you just, it's fine.
Okay,
Yeah, it's fine.
yeah, we operate under our own internal rules.
Right. They just have to work within the bounds of what the code says,
Okay.
given what they have to consider and have to have it well reasoned.
No, I mean, what, like the procedural?
No, they have to just pass the recommendation up the chain, to council, one way or the other. And it's, well, you vote on it, so it's in the public record and it gets sent up at that point in time.
Yeah, law says we have to have a hearing and we have to
Absolutely.
make a recommendation. I don't even know if it says we have to vote, but we have to make a recommendation.
Right.
And then that,
Okay.
The council considers that as part of their
Right.
decision-making process.
and so then we have criteria.
You do.
Would you mind reading that?
Well, 5 criteria. Following considerations shall be examined in review of an application for a conditional use. Number 1, the proposed use is a conditional use of the zoning district and the applicable development standards of the zoning code are met.
So that one's not very subjective at all.
That's just straightforward. It has to be a conditional use to be heard. Right. And then you have to meet the requirements. The proposed use is compatible with the adjacent land use, adjacent zoning, and the appropriate plans for the area. Number 3, the proposed use will not adversely impact access, traffic flow, and other public facilities and services. Number 4, the proposed use will not result in destruction, loss, damage of a natural, scenic, or historic feature. Number 5, the proposed use will not adversely affect the public health, safety, convenience, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare. Those are the 5 uses. And you will all have a memo to review from the attorney, and then he will also be present to clarify anything at that particular hearing that needs to be clarified.
Did we verify if he can do the 13th?
Oh, he did, yes. I talked about the 2 days.
So that 5th one is where, I think there's a potential for the public's input to have merit. 3 of those are not subjective at all. So I don't know if we think that it's worth it to have public comment or not, and I'm simply throwing that out there because it's a part of our other meetings.
As your staff, I would tell you, probably you should allow the public to speak. This is not a variance hearing, so standing is not necessarily to be considered in this case, whereas you usually have to have it, from a standing standpoint, a variance hearing have to be directly affected, meaning adjacent to the property in question, within a certain distance, etc. In this case, it's a general conditional use of the whole zoning district, which is for the whole public to consider.
Right. And yeah, we're supposed to weigh how it would affect the general welfare. And so I think the general public would tell us how it would affect their general welfare. So.
Well, I would always be in favor of people speaking over shutting people down, so, yeah.
Well, and this is something that, we already know this is something people feel strongly about one way or another. And I think, again, I have 0 issues. Now, I am probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but I do believe there should be a limit because some people can talk for 30 minutes at a time. And I'm just going to be honest, I have a family at home too.
And that was going to be my next comment was that we don't know how many people are going to show up. We know how many people showed up for the basketball courts when we had that, public meeting. This will obviously be more procedural than that. And so, do we want to set a time limit? And I would argue yes. And how long should that be? And in my opinion, knowing that if any of us need more information, you can always ask questions when the person's done. I would say 2 or 3 minutes would be. 2 minutes is short. 3 minutes, is if there are 5 people talking, 3 minutes is the difference between 10 minutes and 15 minutes. So multiply that.
I don't have an issue with that. I think once you start, again, I will sit here for an hour if that many people want to have something to say. That does not bother me. I think once you start getting too long, you just start repeating yourself, saying the same thing over again. And I don't want to sound awful when I say this, but most people are going to be saying the exact same thing. That said, that is their right to make sure that we realize there's more than one person that has this feeling. And it can be for or against. So I feel like definitely not more than 3. I don't have an issue with 2. I know when we do 5 minutes, it is very long, So it's hard to.
Okay, what I would like to do is treat this upcoming meeting exactly, and future conditional use meetings, exactly like a zoning variance meeting procedurally, which is in this commission's rules, and I would like to give members of the public 3 minutes to speak.
And that, I thought you said it was 2 minutes in our. It's not 2 minutes?
It's 2 minutes for a regular meeting.
Okay, and our
And then
variance
for a
is-
variance meeting, there's no time limit.
Right.
But that's
Those
the,
are specific
but,
standing.
right, but the chairman certainly can, you know,
And whatever we do in this meeting, can we make sure that that gets put in the rules?
I think it's 2 minutes now, right?
it's 2 minutes for a
No, I'm
regular
saying
meeting.
for a conditional use.
Oh, yeah,
Can we
I see
do it
what
on
you're
that?
saying.
So if we wanna propose, we could do a section, what'll end up being a section 4, and say, conditional use meetings.
Right,
Copy and paste everything from a variance meeting, except where it says chair recognizes members of the public to speak, add for no longer than 3 minutes.
I mean, I think it needs to be in there, and I'm only saying this from other issues that we need to conduct it the exact same way, and if this doesn't happen again for a year, we may forget what we did,
Right.
and
No, I'm for that. Are we, Eric, are we allowed to conduct regular business
Yes.
before?
Yeah, you
Here.
can do however you wanna do.
Okay.
You can have, you know, council typically, when there's a variance scheduled, has the variance up front, and then conducts business after the variance.
Okay, well, we'll need to pass our rules before we have the hearing.
Right, understood.
So we can make sure that everyone is aware of our draft rules.
Okay.
Then we can approve them at the beginning of the meeting, and then we'll have the conditional use meeting.
I think that's what I was asking a few minutes ago. Should we do that before the meeting and make sure that we actually have rules that we're following for this particular meeting? Because I want the next conditional
Yeah.
use meeting or hearing being the exact same way. I don't want somebody to come in here, you let them talk for 3 minutes and you're only letting us talk for 2.
Totally on board.
It would also be a good suggestion in regards to this, especially something like this, where you have, you know, you generally have people saying the same thing over and over again, but sometimes people do get together, have a person speak for them, so they allot their time, the group's here, but they allot their time, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and they have, you know, they're not repeating the where they're having,
A coordinated
Nice.
presentation
Yes.
across the span of.
yeah, which is
3 people.
Which is
Sorry,
appropriate.
5 minutes, yeah.
Put that into your rules too,
And
so they can
sometimes,
see time.
and then just maybe pay a little extra attention to your emails this week, because you may get, or that week, because you guys individually may get emails that people want to know that they can't come, but they have questions or something like that, and maybe you could take that on. That happens with our council meetings
Yeah.
sometimes. People, I can't come, but I would really like to know the answer to this.
Cool. So in the near term, I will revise these rules, send them out for, I mean, we could in theory vote on them tonight, but I don't want to vote on anything until people can actually see it written in front of them.
Fair enough.
So I'll send them out in the near term, along with our criteria for approving conditional use that Eric just read, so that everybody can think about what those mean and how they want to try and, you know, ensure that the applicant's going to meet them. And then, Eric, you said we'll be hearing from legal.
Yes.
What are we missing?
I have a question. This may be totally irrelevant, but are there any rules, like say, if someone gets up there and they want to say whatever they want for 3 or 4 minutes, you figure 15 people, that's 45 minutes into it, are there rules such as you have to stay on topic? So no one's get up there and rant or rave about something totally different that has nothing to do with why.
Haven't you,
Because that's actually
don't the
happened.
rules apply to what's in our,
What's that?
P and Z doesn't, council it doesn't matter, but for P and Z, I thought there was a rule that it applied to what's on the agenda for the evening.
That's for regular meetings.
Okay. Got it.
Can we, since we're doing the rules for this, could we add that?
Well, it has to be specific to it, I think.
Specific to it?
Yeah, I mean,
An example?
yeah, this is during the hearing, so I mean, I guess, if someone, I mean, I don't know that we need to put into rule, if somebody wants to get up and say how much they like spaghetti, I can say that has nothing to do with what we're
The
talking
only
about.
reason I'm kind of even bringing this up was, as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, you brought up the meeting in school we had over the, whatever, people kind of got off topic very quickly and was.
That was a town hall, that wasn't a planning and zoning meeting, that was a whatever get together for, that was a,
And then, you know,
14,
people
15
were supposed to go for 3 minutes talking about stop signs and like, this is not even the.
right, no, I mean, I don't know that needs to be put into.
Yeah, and
into
I mean, honestly,
rule.
that's just an announcement you could make right
Yeah.
before any questions need to be in regards to this, and, you know, please send an email if you want to talk about stop signs.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you to speak only to the topic, and if folks have already said what you'd like to say, let us know that you agree with it, but you don't need to summarize exactly what they just said, and we're asking for, new thoughts. And please stay civil.
We can't have a gavel, can we, to bring order?
Oh, I do. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have one. Believe it or not, I've been here for 4 years and I do not have a gavel.
Can we get the?
Yeah.
Should've got one with the new building.
I'm gonna order one. I'll have it before the 13th. You can use it.
I think we should have it, bro.
Well, I should have one. Lynn used to have one. We've never ordered one.
She's really nice.
I want a pink one.
Deal. How much, right?
I've got a brass one, but it's mostly decorative. It probably would.
You'd damage it.
Does anybody have any bedazzles?
I want a pink bedazzled one.
I'm sure you can find
Streamers
it.
on the back.
I'm Googling. Okay, Amazon. If not, somebody's painting it. Got it?
Eric, is there anything that procedurally or that we're... So the long-term plan is, today we're setting the table, we're gonna have this meeting in February, and then we're gonna get on with normal business of planning and zoning, dealing with variances as they come up and working on the green space plan.
So is the plan, you send out the rules, we review them, do we have another meeting before we have this other meeting?
No,
Yeah, that morning.
at this other meeting,
So we're gonna do that.
before the conditional use, we're going to, so it's important that you take a look, it's important that if we need to be sending emails around if there are proposed changes. And then, right before the meeting, we'll send out the final, and then we'll vote on it after
Because
the
if
meeting.
we all disagreed with them at the meeting and didn't agree to approve them, then what?
That'd be awkward.
I know what.
I mean, then we would operate it as a regular meeting probably,
Okay.
and everyone would get 2 minutes to speak, and we would, we can function without having, we have rules for a general meeting.
Okay, perfect.
If we couldn't agree on how to do a conditional use, then I would treat it as a regular meeting.
I don't need to go
think
too
it's-
far down the rabbit hole, I'm just like, kind of like.
Yeah, no, the majority of us here are all looking at each other saying we're on board, so I hope that we remain that way for a month.
We're assuming that you're gonna send them out the right way. Not put anything crazy in there, so yes. we all totally-
You know what? There's gonna be an error in it.
Oh, of course.
So find the error, and I'll bring you a piece of candy to the next meeting, and then I'll know
We
that
get an Easter
everybody,
egg.
then I'll know that everybody read them.
I need a Rickroll Easter egg in there, please. A Valentine, right? It's
Right,
gonna
yeah,
bring
I'll
in
bring you some
a little
chocolate
heart.
hearts. So again, my hope is to meet once a month unless we have work that requires us to meet more. I'm hoping that we get to a point on the green space plan where we're kind of chugging and maybe we do decide we want to meet a little bit more, maybe in the summer. But for the time being, I think we did good work last year and I want to do good work again this year, and I would be happy to have anybody say anything at this time.
I'd love to have office meetings outside and not inside, especially in the summer,
Yeah.
right? Like, we should always be outside, that should be our office
We have a
meeting.
nice.
But maybe not this evening.
Not tonight.
Do I?
But maybe not this evening. So we're gonna have the meetings on the first, this
First and
Wednesday?
third, is it the first? That's what I was just looking
Well,
at.
or because when they were on the first, it was like, well, they really don't work on the first. It seemed like they didn't work on the first for a lot of people. And we kept switching it then to the third.
Certain
Wednesday,
months
so we should-
especially with that
Like
first.
4th of July.
Let's plan on doing them on the 3rd, because the
third.
issue we always run into is when months start wonky, when council has to meet on this, and then they've got too much planning to do. I think that's a great point. We should, let's plan on meeting the 3rd Wednesday of the month.
And council always meets on the second Thursday or the third?
The first, the second, and the fourth.
First, second, and fourth Thursdays is when council meets, okay.
And
So
then we have in
Freeze it
here, I believe it's the second Wednesday, just so you guys know, the second Wednesday is in PCA.
Yeah.
So by us doing the 13th, that'll actually help, because they are planning on meeting on the 14th, I believe.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're gonna, what's that?
So us on the 3rd, yeah, they're a week before us.
So-
Cool.
Yeah, and I don't see any issues with any of the Wednesdays.
Then we usually hold those dates anyways.
So we're gonna meet that third Wednesday.
Yeah, that will be the plan. And then if we decide to add them,
Juneteenth is the 19th.
There, you know, we're not
Does fall
even
on
wed to
Wednesdays.
being on the first Wednesday if we decide we don't want to, and sometimes there's 5 Wednesdays, and we'll figure that out, we'll try and get
Oh, yeah, it's June.
as much notice.
You don't know for sure.
And, you know, I also like to not have votes until we need to, so
Okay.
hopefully we can have all that done well in advance.
I think I sent you an email about,
You did. Do you
Mike
wanna-
Flickinger had just mentioned it, and so that's why it was on my brain, so I was like, let me send this to Brady real
Yeah.
quick, I know we have a green space plan, but do we need to have a master trail plan for possible? Maybe like a 1A thing. So we know what we wanna do in the future, and that could be already ready to go, and if we wanted to submit for grants or whatever. I think he was saying something about pathways for kids to school or something like that, and I was like, I thought that'd be really smart to have a living, breathing document, just like
Yeah,
the
I
green
think
space.
trails and walkways, trails and pathways, whatever you wanna call it, is a great thing to put in the green space plan.
Yeah.
You know, as its own section that can be reviewed and pulled out. And then you know, I don't want anybody to get but to dovetail off that, even a little bit excited. But the village did submit for 2 projects in the upcoming capital budget cycle. One of them being the $500,000 for walking trail improvements, and then another one being, what was the final amount on that?
We made 2.7 mil.
2.7 million to solve the lakes. And that's our, you know, that's our moonshot. But there's a pot of $700 million that the
Right.
legislature wants to spend on community-based projects.
We thought we had a pretty good argument for why we should get a little bit of money.
And I was, you know, just kind of doing the math in my head. If the speaker said he was gonna give the Democrats $150 million to spend, and then was gonna spend the remaining $550 on Republican projects, that would still give our representative about $5 million to play with. So there's,
Right.
you know, it's not unreasonable because it's such a big pot. That said, we're tiny Minerva Park. We're represented by 2 Democrats. But Eric did the work, you know, put in, we know that we wouldn't be considered if we didn't apply. So we're gonna keep our fingers crossed, and we'll start to know in the coming months as that moves along. It would be really great if we found out we had $500,000 to invest in trails. And it would be really, really great to find out that we could basically do the lake project without having to find $2.5 million.
Right, that'll make Jeff very happy.
So
It
that's
made me really happy.
Right.
that's what's going on at a state level.
So. We'll be
What else?
seeking other funds too, so.
Yeah, there was a meeting with our grant writer today, and I know nothing about the meeting, but I will know tomorrow.
Great.
I like that idea is like a little homework assignment, kind of just think about some ideas, like where these future pathways might go. So if we ever do get that, everything is right there on the table.
Yeah, and, you know, we've discussed surveying the right-of-ways and things like that, and I think, you know, this all works well as part of it. We've talked about curbs and sidewalks, we've talked about,
Yeah.
so to, you know, kind of pull everything together as we learn more and start to narrow our focus a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was from the streets committee meeting where they were talking about it, so I'm learning a lot of things, and I'm just trying to make sure I bring up the things that I hear, so it's a part of the
Yeah,
constant
Kodo,
conversation.
Morpsey, with all the other
Yeah.
moving parts to try
It'd be
and.
important to have the trail and pathway maps, because as, assuming Coda levy passes, which is a sales tax levy, so it's not property tax, not income tax, for the whole Franklin County, we'll get money every year, so we'll need to have something in the hopper, you know, every year to work on that. It's a significant number. You know, granted, Columbus will get the lion's share, followed by other large communities, we'll still get money every year, which is great. The other item to mention is that, especially since Lewis is here, is that before the end of last year, the school district met with Tiffany and I to tell us that they were going to start this is something we talked about a long time ago when they were putting in the elementary school, but they basically told us that they're going to be putting in their Frisbee golf courses. So they'll be putting in several over on their property, which is wonderful. And we shared what we have done and showed them that, and one of their guys who's in charge of it actually is a frisbee golfer himself. So yeah, they were
And is that, have you been dealing with Hilkert? With Principal Hilkert?
I believe so. It
Okay.
wasn't Principal Hooker who sat down with us,
Yeah.
it was their facilities guy.
Okay.
Another gentleman I wasn't familiar with who was the frisbee golf guy who just, I think he just got to be on the project. Right?
Okay.
He's part of their operations, so,
Okay.
which was good. So, yeah, that'll be exciting. So they'll be starting that process. That's all I have.
Cool. Is there any further business? Anybody have anything to say?
Apologies for my tardiness.
Better late than never.
Two
Don't let it
sightings of
happen
bald
again.
eagle in the village?
Okay, you
That's
know
very
what?
exciting.
How about we do this? Let's do attendance, since we didn't do it before. Because I started the meeting and totally forgot.
Oh, just take a roll.
Yeah, you want to do it real quick?
Brady Oxender here.
John Martin here.
Beth McFarland here.
Rainey Conger here.
Tommy Grant here.
Eric Fisher here.
Tiffany Southern here. Now you're not late.
There you go.
Pretty
Okay. Now that attendance has been taken, we're adjourned.